Throughout the first 4 seasons of his career, Rashaad Penny has been pretty disappointing in the NFL. Now, this isn't a hot take or anything like that. When you're drafted in the first round and you only break 500 rushing yards once in a single season, and that happened in your 4th year, I think this is objectively true. Well, this past weekend, Penny had his 3rd 100-yard rushing game of the season. Against the Lions, he finished with 170 on 25 carries, and he also collected 2 scores. In this video, I want to go through his last 4 games and talk about what I saw on film. Is Penny proving that the Seahawks should extend him? Or is Penny just a flash in the pan and they should just move on? Before we do that though, if you can do me a huge favor and like and subscribe to my channel, I'd greatly appreciate that. So anyways, the thing about Rashaad Penny was that he always had skill. It wasn't a lack of speed or a lack of vision or lack of power. It wasn't any of those things that contributed to his performance. The reason for his lack of production has simply been due to injury. Penny's missed 28 games since he was drafted back in 2018. He broke a finger, had multiple knee strains, had a hamstring injury, tore an ACL, and he also had a calf strain. You name the injury, and I guarantee you that Penny has suffered it. Needless to say, him putting together an epic end of the 4th season for a dwindling Seahawks offense is actually pretty impressive. He's been one of the few bright spots for this team. What's interesting is that when you look at his advanced stats, they show Penny's one of the best running backs in the entire NFL. Penny actually leads the entire league in rush yards over expected. On his 96 carries, he's created 1.8 yards over expected. What this means is that for every rush attempt, Penny has created an additional 1.8 yards beyond what his offensive line blocks for. On this graph, you can see that his production is higher than every other running back listed. Jonathan Taylor, who could be this season's Offensive Player of the Year, is below him in this metric. If you watch my last video on Taylor, you can see just how impressive that really is. Now, the one thing you need to note is that Penny is roughly average in his percent of rushes where the running back creates more yards than expected. He's only done that on 38% of his carries. What this tells me is that while he's roughly average at creating yards over expected on any given carry, when he does create them, he creates a ton on his own. This lines up with what I saw on film. Penny really is a feast and famine type of running back. Let's look at an example from his game against the Bears. The Seahawks were running counter out of shotgun. The running back will take a counter step to allow the backside guard to pull and kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. Afterwards, the tight end will then lead block through the open hole. Some teams like using a jet sweep or orbit motion to create more misdirection in the backfield. While the Seahawks didn't do that on this play, they have been using more sweeps and orbits more recently. After the snap, Penny took the handoff and then pushed towards the left side of the line of scrimmage. This pressing by the running back helped the backside guard and the tight end gain leverage on their blocks. Penny used this to his advantage. He stepped through the open hole and then he bounced the run backside. He met a cornerback at the second level, stiff-armed him to the ground, and then he used his speed to sprint down the sideline and gain 32 yards on the play. Here's another play that happened in his Week 14 game against the Texans. The play call for this run was mid-zone weak. Before the snap, you could see that the Seahawks had a numbers advantage on the left side of their offensive line. I count 3 defenders to that side and 3 offensive linemen including the center. This means that if each offensive lineman can block their respective defender, Penny is theoretically free to hit the secondary. After the snap, the center and the left guard will combo block in order to seal the one-tech nose tackle inside. Meanwhile, from the backside, the right tackle, Jay Curhan, will attempt to seal the 3-tech defensive tackle. He made an amazing play here. This is a very difficult block, and while it doesn't look pretty on film, it worked on this one, which is all that matters. Outside of the right tackle, the other block you need to watch is the block by right guard Gabe Jackson. Jackson mauls his linebacker to the ground. From here, all Penny needs to do is read the blocks by his offensive linemen on their respective defenders, and this is what gets him to the second level. Also, the strong safety Lonnie Johnson Jr. overcommits on his run defense to the outside, so Penny can use that to cut inside of him. This is what springs him to the open field, and this is what allows him to score the 47-yard touchdown. Now, the one thing that I consistently saw as I went through his film was some excellent blocking by the Seahawks offensive line. If Penny's creating 1.8 yards per attempt in addition to what's blocked for, and he has run for 5.8 yards per carry on the season, this means that his offensive line and scheme are creating right around 4 yards per carry. This is really good. They're doing this in 2 main ways. First, their run blocking has been better over the past few weeks. This makes sense given who they've been facing. For Penny's 3 100-yard games, they faced the Texans, the Bears, and Lions. According to both Pro Football Focus and Football Outsiders, these 3 teams have bottom 10 run defense units. So it's not exactly surprising that he's had his best 3 games against these teams. It's also not surprising that when the Seahawks faced a good team like the Rams in Week 15, Penny only gained 3.5 yards per carry. This is in contrast to the 7+ yards per carry he gained in those other 3 games. Outside of facing 3 poor opponents to end the season, one thing the Seahawks offense is doing well is that they're giving him light boxes. This is where we need to credit coaching. Light boxes are easy to run against, and Penny has only faced a stacked box or a box with 8+ defenders on just 19% of his carries. This is incredibly low. The average is in the mid-20s. So when you combine these two factors together, you have Rashaad Penny facing bad defenses, and since he's getting good looks against light boxes, he's clearly taking advantage of those opportunities. Now, I don't mean to attack the man while he's playing pretty well. He finally looks healthy for once, and he's doing a great job of creating based on his opportunities. You obviously don't choose who you face, and his broken tackle rate is near the top of the NFL at 26%. However, the context here is very important. We need to factor that into our analysis. Simply put, the number of wide open runs where Penny was untouched as he hit the line of scrimmage definitely plays to his strengths. We all know he's a fast running back with a very good one cut. We also know he's a powerful runner that can shed tackles once he gets up to full speed. These are two things we've known since he's entered the NFL. The issue isn't either of those two things. The issue is that if Penny doesn't get good blocking up to the line of scrimmage, he doesn't do a good job of creating on his own. For example, if he gets touched in the backfield or there's penetration, Penny will rarely break free. Again, he's amazing when he gets to the second level so he can beat a defender down the field. It's just that behind the line of scrimmage, his style of play doesn't allow him to use his strengths. Unfortunately, I just didn't see enough from him over the past few weeks to prove this point otherwise. Again, I'm not saying he's bad or that he doesn't deserve credit, because he definitely does. What I am saying is that Penny will do the vast majority of his damage only if he can get up to full speed first. Regardless, and to answer the question that I posed at the beginning of this video, the only way the Seahawks can re-sign Rashaad Penny is that if they can get him to a very cheap deal. I'm talking less than $2 million a season. Yes, he can definitely create some big plays, and trust me, I'm very happy we're finally seeing the upside after years of waiting. However, his injury history is just too extensive for me at this point. Well, that's all I have for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this wasn't too somber of an ending, but I feel like sometimes I just need to be pretty blunt about what I see and my general thoughts on a player. This is obviously one of those cases where I really hope Penny proves me wrong. If he does, I'll gladly create another video explaining why and how he did. To be fair, he definitely did show more in these past few weeks than he has over the last 4 seasons. But again, I just don't know how much we can really trust him. Regardless, if you want more content like this, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, you can support me directly through my Patreon, and you can find me on Twitter at SamuelRGold.